So there was also a mention in last week's debates when the notion of people eating cats and dogs came about, and I don't know much about that story. There's social media clips about it, and there's been a couple investigations. It is something to at least look into because of how many police reports have come out about this, even though somehow David Muir was able to travel back in time and talk to the people of Springfield to say that, hey, Donald Trump is going to mention this in a debate and we're going to fact check him. So there's something there, obviously, that needs to be looked into. But I wanted to show this. This is a video from PBS News about Springfield. And putting the dogs and cats aside for a second, putting away that just for now, your pets are going to be safe watching this video. There is an interesting take and a look at the migrant population going to these small towns. And PBS News even did a story about this for their NewsHour broadcast. And this is what they found going to Springfield, Ohio, and about the migrant population, Haitian migrant population, going into the small town. Listen to this.
Mirzu says he came to Springfield for the same reason most Haitians did. He heard that housing was cheap and jobs were plentiful.
It started slowly. We had an application pool that was a little bit different.
People coming to work here.
People looking for jobs. What he's welding here again are welded axle components.
Jamie McGregor is the CEO of McGregor Metal, which makes welded parts for the auto and farm industries. Right now, about 10% of his workforce is Haitian, over 30 employees.
I wish I had 30 more. Our Haitian associates come to work every day. They don't have a drug problem. They'll stay at their machine. They'll achieve their numbers. They are here to work. And so in general, that's a stark difference from what we're used to in our community.
McGregor acknowledges the sudden arrival of so many new immigrants is a challenge on multiple fronts, but he believes this is partly how the industrial Midwest can regrow.
So what I've been saying throughout this, when discussing about immigration and why there's so many people pouring in and why it seems like that's a never-ending open door policy, there's not really any border security at this point, that they're just pouring people in. They're even flying people in. Has to do with the fact that corporations, the business interest, invested a lot in immigration. They want these migrants to come in because they're able to be exploited for cheap labor. That's been always the case. Always, always, always. And because a lot of these companies that used to go overseas and set up sweatshops in their territories until governments decide to actually react to it a bit more and be like, oh, okay, you're gonna sell products here, you're gonna make them here and get American jobs back or Canadian jobs or whatever. You're gonna build up shops here. So what do? They bring the immigrants into our territory. They found that loophole because they're exploiting people for cheap labor. That's all this is about. All this is always about. It's the business interests that donate to political campaigns to keep the borders open so that they can bring in these migrants and use them for cheap labor. It's the oldest tale. The oldest tale about this. And this is them admitting to this. But now they're realizing that, hey, the economy is awful. And because people have been pushed out of their jobs, pushed out of union-based jobs that would actually support, their families and cost of living, now people can't afford basic necessities. They can't afford luxuries. And companies are starting to cut back. They're starting to cut back even more. And they don't have enough because they exploited the working class to get these illegal migrants into our countries for cheap labor. But yet the people in this country can't afford their products now. because they don't have sustainable jobs because you ousted them out.
We want more jobs in our community. And in order to fill those jobs, some jobs need to be people who are not originally from here.
There's things in the last 5 years that have really changed and has been a forward improvement for Springfield. But this is taxing the resources of the city. Well, afterwards.
Springfield.
So, and what I've been saying about this, I'm not anti-immigrant. I respect them as much as I respect anybody else. They're people. And that's what it comes down to. They're people just like you and me. I don't have anger towards them. I'm not, pissed off at, the rhetoric when they say, they're stealing our jobs. They're not the ones stealing our jobs. They're not the ones stealing our jobs. They came in, they're being undermined, they're being exploited, they're being mistold. They get, falsified in the fact that, hey, if you come into our neighborhood, you come into these small towns, we'll give you a job, we'll give you housing, we'll give you the American dream that most people take for granted. And they get undermined by this. And this happens all the time with other ethnicities, other cultures, other people pouring into these communities. And they do it purposely so that they can get cheap labor. That's all this is about, cheap labor and undermining the working class. But now it's blown into their face. Now they're realizing, hey, the more we keep doing this, people, born citizens here, can't actually afford our products. We're actually undermining our economy. We're actually doing worse for our cities and towns.
Springfield's Mayor Rob Rue says he was cautiously optimistic when the first Haitians settled in town. But then their numbers quickly rose. The city estimates 12 to 15,000 Haitians are here now.
The infrastructure of the city, our safety forces, our hospitals, our schools. Springfield is a close community and has a big heart. But at the same point, we've had this influx that has taxed all these services.
The number of students needing English language help has quadrupled in 5 years. Translators at the local health center cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And last year was the busiest year on record for the fire department. But it seemed that for the community at large, the increase in immigration and its stresses largely flew under the radar. A lot of that changed last August. It was the very first day of school, and a school bus full of kids was coming down this road. A driver coming in the other direction came around that bend, said he was blinded by the sun. He clipped the bus, and the bus ended up in this ditch.
We begin with breaking news. Right now, multiple law enforcement agencies are on the scene of a deadly school bus crash.
Dozens of children were injured, and 11-year-old Aiden Clark died. When the driver was revealed to be a Haitian immigrant without a U.S. license, things erupted.
The majority of the Haitians here are low-skilled.
So, just show you how bad it is. Show you how bad it is. They're bringing people in. This guy was driving. Was driving the other vehicle, I do believe, not driving the school bus. Thank God. But didn't even have a driver's license. Did not have proper permission to drive an automobile in that town. Like, again, it shows you that this is all purposely set up, done by the corporate estate, and it undermines everything. It undermines communities. It jeopardizes their safety and well-being. It also undermines the city services, because they're saying right now they don't have the resources to teach them proper English. They don't have the resources to house them. They don't have the resources for fire protection. They don't have the resources for all this stuff for all these people that are coming in. And they're pouring in by the hundreds and thousands, just barreling through all these small towns. These small towns can't even keep up. And they're screwed. So it's not crazy. It's not racist. It's not bigotry to be concerned about immigration, because being concerned about immigration, regardless of where they come from, has always been a priority to any nation, any town, anything like that, because you got to keep up with services. You got to keep up with housing. You got to know, how much roads to build, how many more structures that need to be done. Do you have enough services for people that don't speak English well? Do you have enough services to teach them? Do you have enough services for, workplace hazard? Do you have jobs for them? These are all factors that need to be poured in, but they don't do that. They don't do it because they just drag them in, dangle a carrot in front of their nose. Hey, you want to work cheap? Boom, done. We'll give you placement. Everybody else can get out.
And they're illiterate.
I want to know who's bossing them in. Who's responsible for that? And who can stop them from coming?
Our concerns don't have anything to do with racism. They have to do with lack of affordable housing.
For the past few months, Springfield resident and former journalist William Monaghan has been a fixture at City Commission meetings. He helps run a Facebook group that's become a clearinghouse for locals' concerns about the Haitians, where people complain about everything from reckless driving to higher rents.
Do you shop in Springfield? No. Do you drive the streets of Springfield? No. Do you consider that Springfield is your home? No. Are your kids safe in school? No.
They're talking about, I got kicked out of my house because the rent went way up. My insurance has gone way up. I don't feel safe in the stores anymore. With maybe a couple exceptions, it's never a race issue. But they want to make it sound like a racial issue so they can demonize us and ignore our concerns. But these are valid concerns.
I have the same fears that you as mom and dads and grandma and grandpas and aunts and uncles have.
I won't say this is a Haitian crisis, this is an immigrant crisis. It's the fact that we have so many people here and we have a culture clash.
Mayor Rue says reckless driving is an issue. But there has been no uptick in crime related to the immigrant population. But with so many new arrivals, he says, the city needs help bolstering basic infrastructure.
We say we need help, basically for translation services and safety forces. That's what we're looking at. Our hospitals need reinforcement.
In the meantime, local nonprofits like St. Vincent de Paul have stepped in. Here, people learn how to apply for jobs and how to navigate the city's computer system.
It's really important that when you file applications with immigration, that
a translator and a local lawyer help this woman with her visa application. In a building across town, Vilas Dorsonville runs a support center that helps Haitians integrate into American life. He understands why so many new arrivals into an established community can create conflict.
They have the right to express themselves because we are living in a free speech world, whether it is from the Haitian side who are trying to find jobs and opportunities, whether it is from the locals who are complaining because too many people are coming here. It's human being. We are expressing ourselves the way we feel, but at the end of the day, we have to find a way out to live together.
But he says many Haitians would also return home if the violence subsided. Do you hope one day to go back to Haiti?
Yeah, hopefully. I can't wait, hopefully, to go back to Haiti.
So, sorry, I'm just getting an update here. So apparently the cat and dog thing that there's a video that gone viral. I wish I had it in the play here, but apparently that is not from an immigrant. It was a lady from, I think it's Canton, Ohio. Anyway, we'll do a video on it at some point. But I was kind of overhearing this, and I'm glad they bring this point up because this is another thing with immigration is a lot of these people, there's a huge consensus that nobody wants to leave their homeland. People that have built their lives, have been there for centuries, their family, their friends, their culture, their society has always been a certain place. They're not always, uppity on the fact of taking all that away and moving it to across the land to some other place, especially another country that's completely different to what they're used to. They're not so forward on that. But a lot of the reason that these people are coming into America, the reason for that is, and they mentioned about crime here in Haiti, is because of foreign policy that our leaders are directing into other territories that's causing a lot of this. For example, in Haiti, if you look at the Clinton campaign, you look at the Clinton Foundation and their involvement to Haiti, there's a reason for all this to happen. There's a reason why the Haitian population is migrating to the United States. There's a reason why there's an influx of gang violence down there, because our foreign policy directed Haiti to become this cesspool of crime and gang violence that's become, and forcing people out of there. Just like how our endless wars are forcing people to leave the Middle Eastern countries and come into our territory. So again, this is all a domino effect. This is all a huge domino effect. Our foreign policy, our initiatives, our sanctions, our grotesque geopolitical system that has taken over these territories across the world, forcing people out of their homeland that they built up for generations, and they're scared to leave that place, forcing them to come into the United States, into Canada, into England, into other territories. And then corporations abuse that power by snatching them up so they can hire them for low income. They can hire them at extremely low poverty rates that they can use, that they can exploit them. And it undermines their community. It undermines the other workers there. It worsens the services. It worsens everything else. And the reason that they bring up race and bigotry and oh, you're xenophobic is to cover all this up. It's to cover all this up. It's the oldest playbook that anyone that's concerned about immigration, anyone that critiques it or worries about it or concerned about how mass populations are going to adapt to our society, they get the burden of being called a racist, even though it's not a racist ideologue. It's not a racist. It's not racism to accurately critique if we have enough services to help these people. That's just common courtesy. That's common sense. Hey, there's a lot of people coming in. Are we sure we're going to have enough city services to provide for them? To me, that sounds anti-racist. You're trying to welcome these people in. Do we have enough, English second language tutors? Do we have enough resources for these people to get jobs and be employed at a respectable rate? And this is all on PBS News, by the way. PBS. So, to show you how much of a problem this is, and you can take what's happening in Springfield and apply that to any other small city across America and even parts of Canada. Now, in Canada, they're reporting that because there's a huge mass migration into our country, that they're trying to push people away from entering Ontario and Quebec, where a lot of the migrants have surfaced into here. They're trying to push them further into the prairies. They're trying to push them further west into these small towns, so that places, they're going to be exactly like here in Springfield. They're going to be exactly like the same situation. There's going to be a mass pouring of this huge population boom, and they don't know if they have the services to provide for these people. And it's all because corporations, business interests, billionaires, they all want open borders to exploit as many people as possible for cheap labor. Because let's not forget that Bernie Sanders is, quote unquote, the lefty lunatic, as the establishment would say. Even back when he, was calling for a revolution, he wanted the borders closed. Dennis Kucinich wanted to close down the borders. Tulsi Gabbard wants to close down the borders. Jill Stein, concerned about immigration and closing down the borders. It's not a radical thing. It's not a right-wing radical racist thing. It's common sense that we have some sort of system in play that we can figure out how to actually manage this mass amount of people coming into the country. That's just common sense. That's just cooking the books. That's accountability. But you know who wants open borders? The Koch brothers. You know who wants open borders? McDonald's. You know who wants open borders? The investment firms that own Tim Hortons and Burger King. And all these huge business interests, these global monopolies that want these people to pour in and snatch up all these jobs and dangle a carrot in front of their nose so that they can exploit these people with cheap labor. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. And it's just a domino effect of how this is all. And again, I don't put the blame on the immigrants. Again, you have to look at history and understand that we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for immigration. Our ancestors came in the same exact situation that these people did. But to have this high number and not look at the accountability and not look at the aspect of, do we have enough that we can, survive this mass influx of a huge population that came from a different place, different country, different culture? Are they going to assimilate? Are they going to, is there going to be a burden with this rise in the population? Is that going to be a factor? That's not racism. That's just common sense. That's just common thinking. And you talk to any lefty, you talk to any person on the right, you talk to any independents, it's pretty common census. Very, very common with the people. So it's amazing that they did this story to show you that this is what's happening. And this is why Donald Trump and other people are so much focused on this, because it is an actual problem. Unlike Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and other insiders in the political interest world, they aren't concerned about this because they're getting kickbacks from the business interests that want open borders. They want this to occur because it's cheap labor for them. They used to have sweatshops overseas, but then now all of a sudden they just found it easier to just bring these people in to our neighborhoods and give them a false promise of the American dream by giving them a slave job. That's pretty much what it is. And it's happening in Springfield, Ohio. It's happening all across America. It's happening all across Canada. It's happening in Europe. And you wonder why there's a rise of people that are concerned about immigration, to the point that it seems like this right-wing, ploy takeover of the world. I wonder why that is.